We started off very humble means, didn't have any money to do, and it's neat to see just the stages and the steps that we're taking right now to get where we are.
We're not hoarding good ideas or problems that we've been through that we found solutions to. We want to share those things. If we in any way can add value to help somebody else, we want to be that vehicle. Guess what you found? You found the 3PX podcast, and this is our very first episode. We've been talking about doing this for how long?
Gosh, 2 years.
2
probably,
years,
right? Yeah, exactly.
At least. I'm very excited that we're finally able to deliver this, the 3PX podcast, and 3PX stands for People, Profit, and Process. And you found the introductory episode. I'm Steve. This is Wayne. And I want to also introduce our producer extraordinaire, Quentin White, back there, working all kinds of buttons and levers. I don't know what they are, but great to have everybody here. So before we get started, we have to establish something really fast.
All right, let's go.
Everyone who knows us, mostly Landy and Stephanie.
That's our audience right now.
That's
Landy
right.
and Stephanie.
Yeah. Everyone who knows us knows we have a thing. I'm with Wayne.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, no. Let's get it out of the way now.
No.
But what I want to establish is
this?
Everybody needs a sidekick. Okay. For those who don't know, I work for Wayne. Okay. I'm with Wayne. I work with Wayne. He's a great boss. I love Wayne, and I'm sure we'll have some fun stories to talk about. But in this relationship, who's the sidekick? Am I the sidekick? Are you the sidekick? Like how is this going to work?
I would probably say I'm more like the kickstand because you're 6'10" and I'm 5'9", and so when you look at it from that perspective, who knows, right? I don't think either one of us would be the sidekick in this, unless you're saying that I'm the sidekick.
Well, I was just hoping that I could say, I'm Batman, you're Robin.
No, I don't want to be Robin. I want to be Batman, dude. I want to drive the car.
Okay. Well, then, I can still be Batman. You can be Superman.
You can be Batman.
No,
for sure.
No.
I don't mind being Robin. I'm good with that.
You're you're a great partner to have. So so this will be fun. We just want to have some great conversations about what it means to lead a business, grow a business, and we found that there are lots of common similarities and common threads between growing as a person, growing as a leader, growing in your business. So if you're someone that's found this podcast, we want to talk to you as a growing individual, a manager, a leader, a young person. You might be working at a restaurant and you're like, man, I am ready to get out of the restaurant business. This is the podcast for you. If you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling with some issues, growing your business, scaling your business, hitting the next level, this is the podcast for you. If you're an executive and you're looking to find that next level of leadership, this is the podcast for you. So I'm excited to just be able to tell some of the stories of where we've been and what we're working on, and hopefully how we can add some value to people.
And, we make mistakes just like everybody else does, right? And so, we're going to have that opportunity just to open up and share and just be down to earth and talk about it, So we're not going to try to talk too high level. That's the cookie jar is not that high for me sometimes, so I need to be able to reach low for it. Steve will put it way up there.
I got to write that down. The cookie jar is not too high for me.
So, but awesome. We're just going to have fun. We're going to talk about things that we've done, and we've learned a lot over the past several years, and we've been blessed with it, and so just super excited about it. God's just taken incredible care of us and giving us vision, giving us direction, and best way we can do it is share it with everybody else and help other people with it. That would be awesome to be able to do.
Yeah. I think one great way to get started too, now that we're past some of the introductory stuff, is I think people should just get to know us a little bit. So would love for you to start. Just why don't we start with you've had an incredible journey, founding multiple businesses, working as a board member on a couple different nonprofit organizations, and wife and kids, and just you've had a pretty awesome journey. Just maybe talk a little bit about what got you to this point.
Wow,
it all started on a cold and rainy
day. I was born in 1969, and so yeah, it's. I grew up in South Haven, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, And I had great parents. My parents, my dad's got a 7th grade education, and my mom's got a 10th grade education. But they were always entrepreneurs, and they just always. I never saw either one of them work for someone else. They always worked for themselves and just did things. They were always driven, and I guess that's what instilled that entrepreneur spirit in me, and that's just something I've always taken and ran with. I worked for other people, and I found what that was like. I grew up in a family business, and I left at an early age and went off to see if the pasture's greener on the other side and stuff. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a patch of manure, right? And it just looks like a green spot. I'm just being real. So, you learn a lot of lessons through those journeys and through life and doing that kind of thing. And so I got married. My wife and I, we've been married for 32 years. We have 3 kids. Catherine, she's 31. She lives in London. She's got a fiance, about to get married in a couple of years. I got a son, Jonathan. He's 30. He's married to Kat, his wife. They live in Nashville. They work here at our companies. And then Allison is 26, and she lives here as well, and she works for the companies too. And so it's nice to have the family around. But the journey has been a long journey. But I've always looked back and looked at every spot that we stopped at and said, hey, what did I learn from that last spot? And so I've been able to take those and build what we have today. And it's an exciting journey. I went back in the early 2000s. I was working for a totally different industry, and got let go, and I started my own little business doing a plantation shutter and blind business where I'd sell them and install them in people's homes. And there was a small door company in Tupelo, Mississippi, where my wife and I had lived at that time with the kids. And so I went to this door company because they had this really cool showroom, really nice high-end. I thought I'd get my shutters in there. And so I went in there and talked to that guy and to see if I could put my samples in there for displays so we could get more sales that way. And after about an hour and a half discussion with him, I left the business as his VP of operations. And so shutter business went to the side, and that's what got me into the door business. And then the 2008-9 housing bubble hit, and I found myself without a job again, and moved up to Nashville, working with a buddy of mine that had a door business out of Memphis, but he just bought a commercial business this time. So I came up and ran that for him. And he, after about 2 years, he decided that he wanted to move everything back to Memphis. I had the opportunity to go back, but our kids were already pretty much acclimated. Our kids, they were getting ready to go to college and that kind of thing. And so decided to make a shift and started my own business. And so it was just me and one other employee, and we kicked it off and grew it. And I was primarily focused on doing lumberyard sales and things like that. And, one thing led to another, and we started selling online, and it just grew after that, and that's kind of where it is. And we'll talk a lot more about that journey, I'm sure, as we go. But it's really where we are. We've been blessed. We've been taking the business has grown, from 2 people in 2011 to close to 140, 150 people now. You came on board a couple of years ago, and that was a huge blessing and help for me. I can assure you of that. That's been probably, when we talk about great hires, that's you're the great hire that we talked about that, I think, a little bit yesterday, and that was a huge blessing on it. But it's kind of my journey. We started off very humble means, didn't have any money to do, and we're growing and we're working, and it's neat to see just the stages and the steps that we're taking right now to get where we are.
You didn't have some big financial backing. You didn't have a bunch of friends with deep pockets and banks. If I recall, I think Stephanie was your banker for
Stephanie
that.
Was my banker.
Your first loan.
Stephanie, that when I first started, Stephanie, we cashed her 401k out, and that was our money. It was $5,000 after penalties and interest. That was our cash. We had $15,000 left on our credit cards before we maxed them out on $60,000. So that was our credit. And a company I'd worked for previously, I bought inventory from them, some inventory, about $20,000 of inventory. And I said, hey, can you give me 6 months to pay this out? And they agreed to it. And so really $40,000 all in of material, credit card credit, and $5,000 in cash. And that's what we started. And it's like, you can't stop now. You just,
But why that's important to call out? Because some people listening or watching might feel like, I don't have the resources
Yeah.
to start a business. I don't have the right connections. I don't know a fancy banker. I don't have a rich family. If you have a passion and a desire to do something, you can start with very little means. It doesn't make the journey easier, but it makes it possible.
It does.
And that really is something that you and Stephanie did when you first got started.
Yeah. That was a major step. And, we started pretty much in almost a garage type of building. I mean, it was very small, very dirty, very ugly. We weren't trying to build a Taj Mahal. It was just, hey, this is what we started with. I had vendors that came to see me, and they didn't want to get out of the car. It's because it was in a bad part of town, and because that's where you can afford it, right, in a sense, on some of that kind of stuff. And, but we had to start with what we could afford and what we could do. And then you work like crazy. A bank would not touch us for anything in this world, But, I knew I had a mortgage to pay. I had a family to feed. My kids were getting ready to get into that college level. We had no college savings, none of that. So this is me in my early 40s at that point, right? I mean, so it's not that long ago in a sense, but, there's so many people that, in their 20s and their 30s thinking they got to hit it. Well, dude, I was in my 40s and I still hadn't done anything. And who said that this was going to be it, right? We just were blessed, worked hard, and we brought the right people on, great culture, all that kind of stuff. And so that's how it started.
Love that. So here I am 3 years later.
Yes.
Working for Wayne, and it's been an incredible ride. I think I've packed in 30 years of experience into a 3-year journey.
This business you can.
Yeah. I never knew. But a different story on my side. I had no real desire to be an entrepreneur. My dad, he was heavy into athletics, very sports minded. He was drafted to the Houston Oilers. He didn't play very long with them, but growing up, it wasn't entrepreneur. It was athletics, competition, performance. That's how you win. That's how you prove yourself. That kind of thing. And he kind of made a career out of being a corporate guy, right? He was always working for somebody, but he ended up being very successful, and even today, very, very successful. And that's kind of the path that I took as well. So a little bit non-traditional. I had some bumps in the road, like you. Didn't finish college. I did go for a few years, but dropped out of college. Don't have my college degree. And then just went to work. I spent several years crawling under houses, killing bugs, selling furniture. The majority of my career I spent in lease to own, working for a great company, and just a kind of a traditional upbringing there. Just started at the bottom, delivering furniture, selling furniture, all of that, and kind of worked my way through the organization and different places and spots. I learned so much through so many mistakes and bad decisions and skinning my knees and just having to figure it out kind of the hard way, which I would really encourage people to not do.
Yeah.
If you can learn from someone else's mistakes, I highly encourage you to learn from the experience of someone else, as opposed to just trying to pave your own path and learning from what end up being bad decisions. So, it's great to have people like us that have made plenty of mistakes you can learn from.
Yeah.
So, but I had a lot of fun, and I felt like I had a lot of success there, and did learn a ton of things. And then, to go from, that lease to own kind of retail business to selling commercial doors, it's like two polar opposites. So I will say there's something to be said for, a visionary, like you, Wayne, that you took a huge risk bringing me to an industry that I didn't know anything about, the same way I took a risk migrating my career, to something that I didn't know anything about. But at the end of the day, and what we'll talk about, I'm sure will be a common theme throughout this podcast, is there's a core set of beliefs, behaviors, skills that will translate into nearly any industry, any scenario, any environment that you're in, that will naturally bring success.
Yeah.
Then it's just a matter of time to get experienced and seasoned to really become a master of that environment, whatever industry you're in. But if you love people, if you can be a great operator, be empathetic, open to learn, all those things, it really doesn't matter what industry you're working in.
Yeah.
Whether you're a casino, hotel, retail, restaurant, whatever, or selling doors. So that's kind of what got us here.
Yeah, 100% right. I mean, and think about our journey. When we first met, I mean, it took, 4-5 months or somewhere in that area for us to, because we had to get to know each other a little bit, right?
It was not one interview. You were probably
not.
thinking, all right, can I trust this guy? And I was thinking, can I trust this guy? And
I think
it took
it
a little
honestly
while.
started out as just getting some advice and, hey, because we were looking for that operations person that could, help and do. We knew we needed it. And, as we just started talking to you, we just wanted more advice about it. And we met, we had dinner with our wives, and then, we met again at a different situation. And just, it was a long courtship kind of thing. And
I watched you play golf.
you watched me, yeah. We took you to play golf.
We went to Top Golf.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed
swing.
watching you.
Yeah, that was not a good probably scenario.
Steve doesn't play golf anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen videos of you playing golf before. Somebody showed me one of you playing once before.
A long time ago.
Teeing off. So yeah.
My back doesn't do good with bending and twisting anymore now. So.
Yeah, we found that out over the past couple of years too. Haven't
we don't talk about burpees on this show.
No, we don't talk about burpees on this show. Just it only takes one.
Yes, it only takes one.
Yeah.
One burpee equals one surgery.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how that works. So, but since then, while we've been together, just in full transparency, we feel like 3PX is really it's a combination. It's almost like a recipe for success. And starting with people culture, which in my opinion, and we're going to talk a lot about different topics as we go through these different episodes and podcasts. So Wayne and I, we're going to share you our opinion. Doesn't make us right. Doesn't make you wrong. But we feel like people culture is really a combination of the way you think, act, and believe.
Yeah.
It's not the ping pong table. It's not pizza parties. It's how you think, act, and believe inside your organization is what creates your culture. And having a clear definition of what you want that to look like inside your organization, that's really what it starts, where people first starts. So that's kind of the first ingredient. But the second ingredient to 3PX is profit driven. And we actually have a formula that we follow in profit first. And I think that's been a transformative, I know for you, as kind of spearheading the profit first initiatives. But that's really the second piece to that, the recipe for success.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so like you said, the people part, right before you came on, we went through EOS, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too, but that was a huge help for us in setting up our core values and our core focus.
Mm-hmm.
Because really that really starts defining your culture, your people, because that's a huge aspect of it. You could have asked us back in those days, what is your core values, or what is the culture like? And you get 20 different answers from 20 different people. Now everybody's more aligned. Everybody knows, hey, this is who we are as a company. This is our DNA, and that's super important. And then the profit first, those are things that I learned that through the process too of reading and stuff. Back in before I turned 50, I probably could list on one hand how many books I read. And after I've turned 50, I've probably read close to 100. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and I wish I'd have just started reading when I was younger and doing all that because, I love getting those books that you can just take something from and do. But, Profit First was a great one that taught us how to manage our money. And so that's been just a huge aspect of it. So just the people and the profit and then our process, right? And you really brought that in and built that up tremendously since you've been here.
And that's that kind of third leg, for our recipe. It's and we run on EOS.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to tell you that's our operating system. We love EOS. I recommend EOS. It's great for small businesses, mid-sized businesses, large businesses. When I reflect on my time at Aaron's, I think there is so much about EOS and operating on EOS that would have brought so much value to what then was a large publicly traded company. So, embracing the process, the operating system that we're using, EOS, provides such a framework for communication, accountability, scorecards, growth, metrics, meeting cadence, problem solving, all the things. It's such a structured environment. And, one thing you can probably talk about is as an entrepreneur, when you're just starting out, you're trying to figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
And what the EOS process has done is said, hey, you don't have to figure it out. Just do these things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right? I mean, it lists it out for you. So now it doesn't mean it's easy. It can be painful trying to go through the process because you've already built something. When we started EOS, we were already, 10 years into business, somewhere in that area, 9 or 10 years into business is when we started it. And so we already had certain systems in a sense that we did. What may not have been the right systems, but we had things that we already had in place that we were doing and having to relearn, having to make some adjustments, having to make some changes because a lot of it talks about, right people, right place and right people, right seat. And so we had to take a very serious look at our entire group and say, okay, is this person the right person for that seat? They're the right person for the company, the great person, but are the right person for that seat. Maybe they've moved for some reason or another. And so we've had to take some serious looks at that. And we had to make some really tough decisions and tough calls and move people around and do things that, in order for us to take that next step, take the next level, for us to grow. And that can be the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to have to do because I can promise you, I had a lot of sleepless nights during that time because it was having to have conversations that I didn't want to have. And honestly, I look at it and I look at how you had those conversations like, man, Steve just can have those conversations. He had those conversations with me. I mean, sometimes I'm thinking, what you call leading up or something? Managing up. But you're so good at those conversations, and that's a gift, right? Because not a lot of people have that. And but you're really, really good at that part of it. But that's part of the EOS thing. That's when you start looking at the visionary and the integrator. And then we read that one book, Rocket Fuel, and told us more about who we are.
Book.
A great book. And but it really nailed both of us, right? It defined us and who we are and what we do. And, I've always looked at it, and I hope you see it the same way in a sense that, you may, I guess you could say work for me or work for the companies, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it as we're partners. We do it together kind of thing. And, and that's the fun part about it because it's, you have all the autonomy and freedom to run the business and do it however. And I just, I enjoy standing back and giving a little bit of vision and saying, okay, this is good. This is fun.
I don't think you quite stand back as much as you might feel like you do. Like you're pretty well connected, but you're right. The EOS framework is really built on the understanding of having that right visionary, that right integrator. That relationship between a business owner and the business operator is key for success. And I think that's probably why you took as much time as you did is because we had an EOS implementer. When we started this journey, Justin Most, who's an incredible person and an incredible implementer, also an entrepreneur, business owner, and he really nailed that idea home that this visionary integrator relationship is really a key differentiator between success and continuing to struggle in the business, and that's probably one of the reasons why. It took 6 months to make the decision,
You know what? You'd already committed to coming to work for us, but you hadn't actually started yet. You came to the very first off-site meeting that we had, the quarterly that we had. And you're already kind of, in just kind of see what's going on. I remember Justin pulling me out in the hallway and said, that's your integrator right there. Yeah, I mean, and you hadn't even really started at that point.
Wow.
You hadn't even hit the ground running. It's like a week or two later that you came in. But as we sat in there, as we talked and saw it, he already knew, and he could already see it. And but Justin, man, I tell you what, that guy's the energy that he brings, and just the leadership and the thought process. That's what helps that EOS process too. Somebody that really understands it can bring it. He did a great job.
Yeah, and whatever it is that you choose, whatever operating system, whatever process. Commitment and consistency to that process. However you decide to build your people organization, however you decide to structure your accounting and cash flow and all those things, however you decide to build the core process that your business, that your teams are going to operate on, it's hard to be consistent day after day, month after month, year after year. And one thing I will applaud our organizations for is our team, we have stayed consistent and true and dedicated to each of these processes in a changing business landscape. And I can't wait, to talk about that on future episodes, and, shifting demand and shifting economic winds and all the things that are, kind of put business owners in peril and tough decisions. There's one thing that we have decided that is just not going to change: how we treat people, how we manage our profit and our cash, and the process of following the EOS system. That never changes.
Yeah, that's going to be as consistent as day, because that's the formula.
Yep.
I mean, if you change that, then, at least for us anyway, like you said, there's other processes out there, but once you choose a process, you need to stick to it and be committed. Because if you're not, and it just kind of falls by the wayside, then you're just back into the normal routine, and what happens? I mean, if you keep doing the same thing, guess what you're going to get? The same results,
100%.
right? And so if you want change, if you need to have change in your business, then you gotta make the effort to put the right change in there. And it's not going to be easy every time. Sometimes it will be, but sometimes it's going to be very difficult because it's going to take some difficult decisions. But once you make those decisions, the freedom and the weight that it can take off sometimes as a business owner or even a leader can be tremendous. I mean, it frees you up to be able to, okay, that's done. Now what's that next thing that I got to work on? And it works. And then you get, like, on our profit side. I mean, it's I hate to say it right now, but it's so easy. It's crazy. But in the first part of it, it wasn't bad because I got it. I understood it right off the bat, and when we implemented it. But now we've got our budget tied to it. We got a lot of things that are tied to it, and just how we look at it, and we just have a system, a formula. We have different accounts that we lay everything in, and so it wins. It works really well for us, and it's like playing that a football game, and you got that. You got your recipe, and you know exactly what it is, and whatever system it is, and as long as you stay true to it, and you might make an adjustment here or there, you'll start having the success that you need, and just running that same play, and sometimes running that same play just works over and over and over.
Yes, there's lots of paths to peace of mind.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you is financial clarity. Please don't mistake that for financial success.
Yeah.
Financial clarity in your business finances, in your personal finances, can bring you peace of mind. Just knowing where your money is coming from, where your money is going, being able to predict that, being able to plan for that, being able to make moves and decisions based on that financial clarity brings peace of mind. And we feel like the way that we've integrated the Profit First system has really helped to bring that peace of mind because we have such financial clarity across all our businesses.
Yeah, I tell you what, so if you get anything from this episode at all or not, the financial clarity, just like what you said, that's the thing that you got to look at. When you start thinking about, when you're a person that's going to start your business, you could have a business for 20, 30, 40 years. Who knows? You could be a second generation, a third generation, and you've done it all the same way all the time. What I see, and what I've seen with so many businesses that we've helped, and I've seen in our own businesses and people where I've worked in the past, most companies have one bank account. Maybe they have a savings account or something like that, but they have one bank account. All the money comes into that account, and they pay all their bills, they pay their payroll, they pay all their expenses out of that same account. Well, when you have an account, and say you have a decent-sized business, whether it's 10 million, 20 million, somewhere in that area, well, there's tons of transactions that are going through that one account. Well, you don't have any clarity at all because everything's just a jumbled mess because there's just stuff coming and going all day long. And what Profit First does is it helps kind of break it up to where instead of having one account, I mean, right now we probably, for each one of our businesses, we probably have 10 accounts. And so we split it up. And so we have an income account where the money comes in and it sits there and it gets parked and money just builds up for a couple of week period. After a couple of week period, we transfer everything out of that income account to where it goes from whatever it is to zero, and it goes into different accounts, different buckets is what we call it. And so we have a profit account because we're intentional about putting money away, right? We have a tax account because what's the worst thing you can do is when you're making money and then Uncle Sam's calling, and they're going to call. I mean, if you're making money, you have to pay taxes. Now, you can write offs and you can do different things, but at some point, you're going to be paying taxes. And if you don't have the money to pay taxes, and there were years that we didn't, that, I've got to put a lot of my personal accounts, you're sweating. And it gets to be a very scary thing. And a lot of people, that kind of thing can put people out of business. And so when we do that, then every account is funded. So when it comes time to pay taxes, the money's already over there. So when you're writing that check, you're not sweating about it anymore. And that's such a liberating feeling that it's just like, my goodness, where has this been the whole time? And so it just feels so good. When it comes time that we need to go buy a piece of equipment, or we are looking at moving, like what we're doing, our profit account is sitting there, and it's over the past several years, it's gotten to be a decent number for us, and so it's been able to give us that freedom to where, hey, yeah, we can go and go move into another building, or we can go buy a new CNC machine to help us grow and continue to move forward. And so it gives you that freedom to be able to do that. It's a fantastic system. It helps close that loop, and so and it's really laid out to where, depending on what size business that you are, it tells you how your profit first system should be laid out and set up, and so it really helps and it works really well.
Mm-hmm. And some people might be thinking, they hear all those different accounts and you think, man, that's complex. But once it's established,
yes,
once it's set up, the clarity of seeing where every one of your dollars is going makes it so worth taking the time and effort to get it set up properly.
Yeah, you ever hear people say, take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves?
Absolutely.
That's exactly what this does, because you're putting all that clarity into it. Now you're seeing where every dollar goes, because everything's set up on those percentages, and you can go and say, okay, look at your vendors or look at your OpEx accounts, and you're looking at all the small stuff. Well, you're taking care of the small stuff. The big stuff, you're already going to look at that, right? But now you're just it brings so much clarity, because not only is it just the banking side of it, which is a big part of it, which is what we do really, really well now. But you also look at your expenses. So you'll go through your bank statements. You'll look at different things, because as you start breaking it out, there's a little bit of legwork on the front end to go through and understand, okay, this percentage goes in is how much we need to put into the OpEx account. This percentage goes in the profit. This goes in the, when you start laying those out in the very beginning, it's a slow process. It's a stepping process. You can't just all of a sudden go from 0 to 15% into your profit account. It may go from 0 to 1%. Mm-hmm. It's shocking, because sometimes you look at it and you start seeing just how, you're running your business basically the same way, but you're seeing such clarity on your money that you're starting to look at different expenses like, well, why are we even paying that? You might have expenses that you've been paying for 10 years that's just automatically coming out of your account each month, and it could be a $39.99 charge that somebody did 10 years ago. It's like, well, why are we still paying for that? Well, I don't know. Joe did that.
To be fair, we have canceled many of those.
We have, right?
We have gone through and canceled many of those.
But if you're not looking at it and you got one account, dude, you never see them.
It's buried in thousands of other transactions.
100%.
You never see it. And that mentality of caring about the $1 as much as the $1,000, it translates into the way you make decisions in the business. Every dollar matters. Now, we're certainly not going to trip over dollar to pick up pennies.
Yeah.
Right? But the way we view money isn't just about profit, it's also about efficiency.
Yeah.
Somebody's paying that bill. Somebody's having to manage that account. Somebody's having to make those phone calls. Somebody's having to, answer this, answer that. So when you can reduce, all of those small things, it also reduces the complexity of what it takes to run and manage the business. Makes it more simple to operate the business when you've got less clutter.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Well,
of
it knows
that.
what your abilities are, what you can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you know where you are, you know what you can do. If you don't know really where you're going.
Yeah, I can't wait to the. We are going to have an incredible profit first episode, and when we talk about the mindset shift of profit not being the thing that you're left with at the end, but profit being the first thing. Really the second thing after, we prioritize giving back, and we'll talk more about that probably in the future, but profit really being the first thing that you prioritize in your business. So, what I want to get into now is like, why are we sitting here? Why did we decide, to do this podcast? And, by the way, the X doesn't get a lot of shout out in 3PX, but 3PX sounds a lot better than 3P. So we didn't want to call this the 3P podcast.
The 3P podcast.
So X got added in there, and that's really just about having great customer experience, great team member experience, and not just saying it, but being focused through having metrics that measure your team member experience through 90-day pulse surveys, check-ins. So you're always making sure you've got a great team member experience. And then also on the flip side, leveraging that customer experience. And this is not just about NPS scores. As some of my friends like Zach Hamilton and others will say, NPS doesn't tell you really how well you're serving your customers. You have to listen to what your customers are telling you and then take action on what your customers are saying, and to ensure that you're delivering a great customer experience, closing those feedback loops with customers to ensure that customer insights turn into business actions so that you can make positive impacts on your customer experience. So that really completes the 3PX, puzzle. But then back to my earlier point, like we could just keep running our businesses. At this point now, we've underneath the Forward umbrella, we've got cdfdoors.com, an incredible commercial door frame and hardware manufacturer, distributor, online retailer that's doing great. We've got Fast Partitions, which is an online retailer of commercial bathroom partitions, accessories, hardware, providing great service really all across the country. We just opened Forward Freight.
Yep.
Shout out to Forward Freight.
Yeah.
Forwardfreight.com, FOREWORD. Got to make sure it's spelled right. And website's up and running. It looks great. And that business in the last year has really taken off with our vendor network jumping in. We made our first hire of a manager to run that business. We had our second hire, a logistics coordinator.
Yep.
We love Kathy over there. So, and then along with our our side hustle business, we sell socks on the side. We won't talk too much about socks. And then and then our coaching and consulting, which is 3PX. But we could have just stayed busy doing that.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like, why is it important to you to be sitting here talking about 3PX and maybe talking to whoever might be listening, hopefully more than just Landy and Stephanie, you never know, but whoever might be listening, why are we here?
I do feel like, maybe my daughter in London or some of my kids, they may actually listen at least to the first one. Yeah. After about halfway, it's like, okay.
We may not get them hooked for the second episode.
May not get hooked on the second one.
I'll get my kids committed to watching.
No, I think they'll get committed. The why, man, that's an easy one, to be honest with you, because, look at the experience that you and I have learned over our years, not just our career, not just here doing what we've done in the past few years, and some of the things that we've changed and have grown the businesses, because we've made some huge transformations. I mean, think of Fast Partitions when we took it over and where it was and where it is now.
It was losing money. Let's be clear.
It was.
When you bought it back, and said, "Hey, guess what I did?"
Yeah.
And we discovered it was losing money, and also, we're not ashamed to say, just what, about 4 years ago, CDF was losing money. So there's some, to your point, there's some incredible turnaround stories.
Yeah,
we can talk about.
But a lot of people don't have, a lot of companies that I've talked to, a lot of friends that are having businesses. They've had a great idea. When you start a business, you feel like you've got a great idea. You want to start this business. You're going to put a lot of time and effort into it, a lot of sweat equity, that kind of stuff into it, and but you don't know where to start, and you just start, and you just go, and that's what we did. We just started. We just felt like, hey, we can do this. If somebody else can do it, why can't we do it? And so we did, and it's a lot harder when you're on that other side, and now you have to pay the bills. You got to pay just everything. You got to rent. You've got people that you got to pay, and you got to, your employees come first. You can't just sit there and say, well, I'm going to pay myself, and they can't get it. It's the other way around. Mm-hmm. There were many times in the first part of my career with CDF, when we first started the business in 2011, that we went without a paycheck because I had to make sure that we took care of our employees first. And, so what I learned to do very early on is we started making money. I started putting money to the side and a little bit of money to the back, even before we started Profit First, because I needed to have a little bit for a rainy day. And that may not have been a lot, but it's enough to cover my family and I, because there were times I went a month, 2 months without getting paid. When COVID hit, we had to make a real quick transition to make sure that we could survive before, the government gave us the bailouts and all that kind of stuff. And, fortunately and unfortunately, we took, and we had to be a part of that. But I think just about every company in America did at that point, because it was just such a shock. But, before we got it, when we made that decision in March, like March 15th to probably May sometime, we took some pay cuts across the board with our employees and had to do a little bit of layoff. But for me as a business owner, I didn't take a paycheck at all. I said, hey, until everybody gets back going 100%, we'll have to do with what we have in savings and what we, just whatever means that we need to do, and cut expenses, personal expenses too, and everything. And so going through that and seeing other companies go through that, I think we have something that we can offer people. And if they listen to the podcast, you just give us time. I mean, this is the first episode. We're just talking about a lot of things in general and hitting the whole highlights of everything. But when we dig in deep and we talk about Profit First and we talk about the processes and we talk about culture and the people side of it, because those are just as important. You know, you can't have good profit and have bad people experience, right? I have a bad culture. That's so important. And so those are the kind of things that are a winning recipe that we, you know, to me, I look at that as, man, if we can share this, and if it's just one company that gets it, that listens to it and says, man, I want to learn more about that, you know, hey, reach out to us, give us some feedback. We're happy to share ideas or stories or things that we can do that can help you and that kind of thing. You know, I want to be able to be a resource and be able to help, you know, as God's blessed us and taken care of us. You know, this is just a way for us to give back to our community and to other business owners, and or whether it's even on a private side of it, you know, on a personal side. I just think, you know, I feel obligated to be able to do that. And, you know, nobody really helped us, but how can we pay it forward?
Yeah, I love that. I'll echo the exact same sentiment. I mean, this is certainly a nice creative outlet. Yeah. Being able to be able to sit here and talk about these things and then reflect on where we've been. But at the end of the day, we're not hoarding good ideas or problems that we've been through that we found solutions to. There's no exclusivity or monopoly on good ideas. We want to share those things. And whether it be something that impacts you in a positive way in your business, in your personal life, in your family life, whatever it might be, if we in any way can add value through some of the things that we've worked through to help somebody else, you know, get to that next level, get through this current obstacle that they're facing, we want to be that vehicle. Yeah. And I'm passionate about that. And, you know, I know you are as well. And at the end of the day, if it ever stops being fun, we won't do this anymore. But not. We got to make it fun. Yeah. You know, so, you know, I feel like that's it. That's, you know, if you made it through that whole first episode, thank you for listening. Yeah. We appreciate you. And we can't wait to talk more with you. Please engage with us on whatever platform. If you're watching or listening, you can find us on social media through our personal social media accounts or our business social media accounts. Please engage with us, ask questions, like, share, comment, all the things. We are definitely going to have future episodes where we're going to be answering your questions and addressing the comments that you have directly on this show. We have a couple of live shows planned in the future that are going to be a ton of fun. We'll be including some guests as we go, but this podcast is really about you and adding value to you. So wherever you are, whatever stage of life you're in, if you are looking to hit the next level, then the 3PX podcast is for you. We can't wait to talk to you more in the future. That's it.
That's it. Exciting stuff, man. Right. Hey, thank y'all.